Hey everyone, it's John here from MCKAY, back with another video, and this video is going to be one trade target for each NHL team prior to the NHL trade deadline. As I've said, I will be live all day on April 12th, the NHL trade deadline, so hopefully you join that stream on this channel. And of course, if you're new, welcome. If you're a new subscriber, please hit that like button. Hopefully I'll see you more going forward, and definitely leave your thoughts in the comment section on your favorite team, on the targets in general. And as I said, let's go through each team and one player. I'll mention a couple players for each team potentially, but one main player that I could see them focusing on prior to the deadline. So let's get right into it, starting with the Anaheim Ducks. So this one's an interesting, you'll see it like with a few teams here, like it's an interesting situation for the Ducks because you're rebuilding, right? You're just going to go for draft picks and prospects, and they're going to trade guys potentially like a Manson or a Delorier, guys like that. I don't see them making a huge splash unless they do trade Rickard Rakell, but I do think they expect a first-round pick plus two other pieces potentially. So that's a lot to expect. I do think the Ducks are going to make at least a deal, but in terms of targets, they're going to target a draft pick. They're going to target younger players. The Arizona Coyotes, hot take alert right away. I see them potentially making a deal for a younger forward or a younger player in general. They could trade Goligoski. I could see them trading Connor Garland because they don't want to have the huge contract. DeBrusk has struggled. So if they want to make a deal with the Bruins, for example, sauce over Goligoski and Connor Garland, DeBrusk can be part of the package back. And he's a pending RFA, but he won't expect too much. I think it'll be a bridge deal at a smaller amount. So I think they could target a Jake DeBrusk, a Nolan Patrick, guys like that haven't had the greatest years recently, and the Coyotes may be a little more low-key of a market to help develop these guys. Boston Bruins, Kyle Palmieri. I think they're going to look at the Matthias Ekholm option, but it might not be an option anymore. I think they're going to look at guys like a Vince Dunn, like a Goligoski, but Palmieri for me is their biggest fit into the top six. He can play that Bruins-style hockey. I think Palmieri is a great fit. The Buffalo Sabres, just huge question marks across the board. This is less of, I'd say, just targeting a player, more of they're going to be making trades. Montour could be gone. Colin Miller could be gone. Taylor Hall should be gone. And just a bunch of other guys that could be on the move. The Buffalo Sabres are looking to make a lot of moves. The Calgary Flames, this is a team that has just been a mess. Blow it up. But I just don't see it happening until the offseason. So they're going to trade guys like Sam Bennett potentially, or maybe one of their depth defensemen. Maybe a Derek Ryan becomes in a trade. I just don't see them making a huge trade because with the cap situation of certain teams, you're not going to get the full value you could get in the offseason. So I'm thinking they're just going to go draft route, get some picks, get some young players. That's their route for this. I really don't see them selecting or at least targeting anyone specific. They're just going to be open to a lot. The Carolina Hurricanes, I've been saying it low-key. I don't know if they do it, but if the Buffalo Sabres retain 50%, they have contracts they could send the other way. They could send a Jake Gardiner back to Buffalo. So keep this in mind. I wouldn't be surprised if, they have Jake Gardiner, they have James Reimer. They could send a contract back to Buffalo. I would not be surprised if the Carolina Hurricanes are a wild card to acquire Taylor Hall. Keep it in mind. I'm just putting it out there. I think they could also maybe bring back an Eric Halla or just get a depth piece. But keep in mind, they are a wild card to acquire Taylor Hall. Chicago Blackhawks. I think they could go a couple routes here. I don't think they're going to make anything huge. Like, the Clayton Keller suggestion here is probably an offseason thing, but I wouldn't be surprised. They've been trade partners with Arizona before. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe got a Connor Garland. The Blackhawks are outside of a playoff spot right now, but they're looking forward to the future. Connor Garland's still a fairly young piece, middle 20s, so he's got his prime ahead of him over the next few years. I actually Connor Garland reminds me, not in similar play, but like a Jonathan Marchessault, a guy that's kind of stepped on the scene late, but been a very good player. So I like it a lot in terms of Chicago, maybe partnering up again with Arizona, but also I could see Chicago helping a team in terms of retaining some cap and getting a third or second round pick in return. I can see it happening. Okay, so Colorado Avalanche, this is a team right now, if they're healthy, they have a real shot to win a Stanley Cup. Jonathan Bernier, Chris Drieger, they're going to go for a goalie. That's their target. They need to make it their target. Acquire a goaltender. It's as simple as that. Columbus Blue Jackets, I'm throwing Alexander Kerfoot out there just because, well, on the trade bait board, they have him in the top, 20. But also, I think the Blue Jackets are going to trade one of their forwards, and the Toronto Maple Leafs could be involved in that. So I will say Kerfoot's an option, but also I think there's other teams that, like, for example, if the Blue Jackets made a trade with the Islanders and the Islanders were getting Nick Foligno, I could see the Blue Jackets just taking on the contract of Comra, for example. So it's going to be something like that. The Blue Jackets are just not looking like a playoff team. Get draft picks, get younger players, but also Kerfoot with term could just be a piece moving forward. Dallas Stars. It's hard to kind of see what the Dallas Stars are doing here, but they've had injuries up the middle a lot. I could see them acquiring a guy like Chris Tierney or acquiring a guy like Artem Anisimov. Guys that won't cost you too much, but are going to give you that center depth options. I like the Chris Tierney option because it's not like he's old, 26, 27, in around that age. As he gets closer to his 30s, he could play with the Dallas Stars for a few years. I could see it being an option. All right, Detroit Red Wings, Steve Yzerman. I think he is just going to look at everything. I think he's going to potentially trade John Merrill. He's going to potentially trade Bobby Ryan. I think he's going to potentially trade Jonathan Bernier. Get a first-round pick. That's your target. If you can get a first-round pick, potentially package up Bernier with, like, Glendening or Merrill, whatever. Like, whoever's going to help you get a first-round pick, potentially, do it. I really wonder if they trade Anthony Mantha. It might not be now. It could be an offseason move, but just keep that in mind as well. Edmonton Oilers. Well, we just talked about the Red Wings, and obviously you look at the connection there. Ken Holland, straight up connection there with the Red Wings, and a long history there. I think they will talk to Detroit, and I think they could acquire a Glendening, they could acquire a Bernier, they could acquire one of those guys. But I would go Rickard Rakell from Anaheim. If you can acquire Rickard Rakell from Anaheim, that is your move for the Oilers. That guy would solidify your top six, make your top six that much more scary. You drop Cahoon in the lineup. You potentially get, like I said, a centerman like Glendening. I think the Edmonton Oilers need to push still for a top six forward. I've been saying it. I just don't think they have enough outside of McDavid and Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins has his moments. Puljujarvi has his moments. Yamamoto has his moments. I'm still waiting for that guy that will really solidify that top six. Vince Dunn. All right, the Panthers. Well, there's been talk about the Blues making a hockey trade, right? Just a straight up 1-for-1 potentially, or just a good hockey trade. With the Panthers losing Ekblad, I think they're going to look at a Vince Dunn. They're going to look at a David Savard. I wouldn't even say they may even look at a Josh Manson. So the Florida Panthers are going to be looking for a defenseman. I also would put them as a wild card for maybe Taylor Hall or one of those forwards out there. But I do think they're trying to get a replacement. I wouldn't say like straight up of what Ekblad was doing, but like a guy that they can move into the top four immediately. All right, hot take alert. Victor Mete to the LA Kings. There was some rumblings about this in the offseason, and I do believe there's still a potential of Victor Mete getting moved from Montreal, especially with the expansion draft coming up. I could see the LA Kings, who are a little short on defense, younger defense, I could see them going after a Victor Mete and trying to take advantage of that. They already snagged Brendan Lemieux for a cheap price, just a fourth-round pick. I think they're trying to take advantage of that from certain teams. All right, so it's tough with the Minnesota Wild right now. I don't think anyone expected them to be this good, but Kaprizov's obviously come on the scene. They have a great roster up and down. Victor Rask has stepped up. Johansson stepped up. Zuccarello from injury was really good. I still wonder if they're going to try to trade Parise here. Maybe not before the deadline, maybe in the offseason. Obviously, that trade was in the conversation. It was in the rumor mill of Parise to the Islanders for Ladd, Bellows, and I think it was a pick. So it's still interesting. I think it's an option for maybe the Islanders. Lou Lamoriello knows Parise well. So I think it's possible, but I also think the Islanders would want to give up less, and they would want some kind of incentive on taking Parise, because at this point, yes, Ladd's contract's really bad too, but it's shorter term. So for the Wild, they can see it kind of away in a couple of years rather than Parise, who's got 5 years left on it, like a handful of years. So it's crazy in that sense, but I can see the Wild, Bill Guerin being busy on that front. All right, another kind of option here for the Montreal Canadiens, Vince Dunn. I'm just throwing out a mock trade here, not specifically in terms of package, but I wonder if Vince Dunn becomes a Montreal Canadien and Victor Mete a St. Louis Blue. Just in terms of, I'm not saying that's the 1-for-1. It's not a 1-for-1, but I wonder. It's interesting. The Blues want a hockey trade. I think Victor Mete would fit nice on their third pair. And now with the recent news of Brendan Gallagher being injured, I wonder if the Montreal Canadiens go after a forward, because with that $3.75 million cap hit, they've got some space here, and they've got an option to go after a forward, whether it would be a Nick Foligno or a Cal Palmieri. They could also go at a lower rate and look for a guy like a Sam Bennett. I'm not saying that would be the greatest fit. They could also trade an Arturi Lehkonen and go for a big forward. Imagine they just went all out and just like, hey, let's create some more cap space, get a big top six forward. I've been saying the Canadiens to go on a far run. Maybe they're missing that stud up front, top 6 forward. I'm just throwing it out there. I think they could go depth on defense or go for another piece on the defense. But now they have the option of going for a stud up front if they wanted to. If Bergevin wanted that splash before the deadline. All right, Kerfoot to the Preds, kind of the same reasons. If they were to acquire, like in terms of the Leafs, acquire Michael Granlund, they are still competing for a playoff spot. So Kerfoot would kind of fulfill that production on that side. And I do think Granlund is an upgrade for the Leafs. All right, Devils, as I've said for other teams, picks, prospects, young players. That's their goal. They're going to potentially trade Zajac. They're going to potentially trade guys like Palmieri. I think Palmieri's for sure going to get moved. Maybe even a Miles Wood. Maybe even one of their defensemen. I think Kulikov could get moved. So Ryan Murray as well. There's guys that are going to get moved from New Jersey. So prospects, picks. Target them. All right, Islanders. Palmieri is the guy for me. I think Nick Foligno would be another option for the Isles. I've already said I think Taylor Hall has been in conversations, but I would say Palmieri fits the style, and there's a connection there, so I would say Kyle Palmieri. Rangers, Vince Dunn. I've talked to a lot of Rangers fans that want Vince Dunn. I could see it being a fit on the left side. I don't think the Rangers are going to do too much, but as you guys have seen, I think Vince Dunn is like, you don't see young players like that available too often. He's struggled defensively this year, but I do think Vince Dunn still has a lot of potential. All right, just the Ottawa Senators, same thing. I mean, they're going to trade some guys. I could see them making a couple moves. So Pierre Dorian's going to be busy. They're not really targeting anything specific other than just draft picks and prospects. They're going to keep their options open. All right, Goligoski to the Flyers. I see this being a big fit. I think they were in on Ekholm, but I'm not sure if Ekholm will be moved anymore. I think Goligoski is an option where you're not spending too much, but he could be an option on the top pair with Provorov, and especially if you're a team that's in the conversation for the playoffs still, you want to make at least one addition to see if it will help. All right, Eric Hall to the Pens. I love this fit. Center, wing. They need some depth. I like Halla on the Pens quite a bit. They've always kind of been looking for that third line center prior to the playoffs. I think he can fit both on the center, and if they need him on the wing, he plays the wing. Chris Driedger to the Sharks. I'm not sure if this is a fit right now, but in the offseason, I could see Chris Driedger being a target for the Sharks. I'm looking at Devin Dubnyk, and for the Panthers, they are confident in guys coming in, Spencer Knight, and even Montembeault's kind of their third stringer, so, or even fourth stringer, I guess, but I could see an option where you have Chris Driedger and maybe a pick go to San Jose for like Dubnyk and LeBanc or something like that. Like LeBanc could be an option that helps Florida and at a cheaper rate. And I could just see it being an option where Chris Driedger re-signs with San Jose and becomes the tandem with Martin Jones. I think it's possible. Maybe a hot take, but I think it's possible. And Chris Driedger has been tagged in rumors with the Sharks before. Vince Dunn, Victor Mete, I kind of already talked about the swap, so I could see the Blues going for the hockey deal and targeting a guy like Victor Mete plus in that trade. Hot take alert. Rasmus Ristolainen to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm not saying this is realistic, but I did suggest in the offseason, I wonder if one of the teams that the Lightning were talking to outside of the Red Wings about a Tyler Johnson trade were the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres could use a second or third line center, Tyler Johnson, to the Buffalo Sabres. You tag a first or second round pick with the Lightning. Obviously, they've given up their first round picks recently, and a prospect. I could see them getting a Ristolainen in that sense, or I could see them also going after a David Savard on that right side. I think a really big shutdown pair of Savard and McDonough going to the playoffs would be huge for them. They could get Columbus to retain half of it and then send a contract the other way. I could see it being a possibility. Toronto Maple Leafs, Palmieri and Hull. You can go down the list. Granlund. There's a bunch of names out there. I wonder if they'll talk to Raquel. Kyle Dubas has made it known they're willing to give up a top prospect, and I know they're going to try to get a top forward. And as those four guys I just named, and there's other ones out there, they are going to look for one of those players. Vancouver Canucks, there's nothing specific here, just to get the players healthy for the best outcome in terms of health. And if they can trade a Ben, if they can trade Tanner Pearson after, if they can trade one of those guys, they'll do it, but that's kind of their focus right now. Vegas Golden Knights, Bobby Ryan. Washington Capitals, Bobby Ryan. I like the fit for both these teams. Both teams tight on cap. I think Bobby Ryan could be a fit for both those players. And I'm throwing in John Merrill as well for those guys. And the Winnipeg Jets for David Savard. There's a lot of options here. I think for both Josh Manson and David Savard, they're options for the Winnipeg Jets, and I do believe the Jets are going to acquire a defenseman. So let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you're new. Drop a like. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. As I said, I'll be live all day on NHL Trade Deadline Day. Thank you so much for the support. Road to 29K, road to 30K. Let's keep her going. Thank you so much. This was John from Matakaki. Have a good one. Peace out.